Hey guys, it's Nikki from Love of Dirt. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how we manage our fruit fly situation. So here in southeast Queensland it does become a huge problem over the warmer months, but we sort of have a holistic approach to it, to keeping them out of our garden organically. So let me show you what we do. Queensland fruit fly is a devastating pest here for us in southeast Queensland, and it can lead to a pretty dire summer. There's a lot of things that we sort of avoid because it's just too hard with the fruit fly, but basically they affect tomatoes, our capsicums, our chilies, and we even have a fruit fly that stings our zucchinis, cucumbers and butternut squashes. Basically no fruit is safe, so our strategy is to exclude and manage the numbers. So probably one of the most easiest things is an exclusion net. It just covers all bases. As long as you've sort of got it covering everything and it's not tight on the fruit, it will usually keep them out. So I'll just show you what we've got here. So this probably isn't one of our best setups. I've literally just draped this over the fence and a tomato cage. So let's have a look. So you can see here I've got all of these tomatoes here just growing in pots. So I think I showed these in the last tour that I did. So these are all just some determinate tomatoes that grow. These ones here grow without staking. This one needs a cage. So this is the pink Thai egg. So these are starting to ripen up. We've got some Florida basket here, and the little Tommy toe here. So there's a few that are ripe here. And we don't have any problems with fruit flies on these because we've just basically draped this net over the top. So the other strategy is, if you don't want to cover your entire garden, and this is probably my preferred method, is just these little exclusion bags just directly over the fruit. It works well. The one downside is if it is quite hot and if perhaps you're getting a lot of sun here, if the fruit is hitting the bag at all, it potentially can get stung. But the worst probably thing that we have is the fruit gets sunburnt. So these are really great, and yeah, I've got hundreds of them lying around, so I can just come and cover up any fruit that I want, and it works really well against the fruit fly. So there are definitely downsides to using an exclusion net over an entire garden bed. We've had problems with that before, where we might get a mite infestation, or we might get a stray caterpillar in there, and they'll do a lot of damage quite quickly because they can't get out, and there's not that balance to keep everything in check. So it is definitely worth mentioning, if you are going to net everything, that potentially it's not going to cover all your bases all the time, but it is a good strategy. So in here amongst our Hawaiian guava, we've just got a fruit fly trap here. This isn't 100%, we will get some fruit fly in things, but basically this one here, this particular variety, does get the male and female flies. So it's going to get them all, but again, it's not 100% foolproof. Just having this here, I potentially can get my fruit stung because they can potentially sting them before they get to this trap. Now there are other bait stations on the market which are more hormone, and it attracts the male. So they are really good if you want a really holistic approach to keeping the fruit flies under control. So if you've got a lot of fruit flies, I would definitely recommend getting those. So the other thing that we use is basically protein bait stations. This is the product we use. I'm not sponsored or affiliated, but it is basically a protein bait, and we paint it on these bits of timber, and we hang these around places where we've seen fruit flies or we've got a problem. So for instance, around our guava trees, which really do get affected. But yeah, basically we just mix a paste and we paint it on these boards and hang them around. So it's kind of like a holistic approach to keeping the numbers down as opposed to protecting the plants. So that's our strategy here. Another really important tip for managing fruit flies, if you do have a lot, you really do need to make sure that you clean up. and that means not putting affected fruit in your compost bins. And even I err on the side of caution with giving them to my chickens, because I just don't know if the maggots are going to pupate into the soil and then I'm going to have problems later on. So the best way to deal with them, affected fruit, is to freeze it. That's what we do. We stick it in the freezer and then we can compost it later. But you can also solarize it by putting it in a black plastic bag or something that's actually going to cook it. You can boil it, things like that. I have tried just putting it in a bucket of water, but they definitely reanimate. So you definitely need to sort of kill them with fire or freeze them. So that's the best way to sort of keep your numbers under control, is to really manage that. Make sure you're picking up all fruit that's fallen on the ground, making sure that you don't put it in your compost bin or just having it just lying around. So a few other things to know about fruit flies is they actually can't travel that far, and what they do to go from place to place is they are jumping across trees, so they can only fly around 500 meters. So if you've got a neighbor who has a lot of fruit that's not being managed properly, you might want to have a chat to them and just see if you can help them sort that out, because if they've got a problem, you're always going to have a problem and it's going to be an ongoing battle. So one super common thing that we get here in southeast Queensland is actually our butternut pumpkins get stung. I believe it's not a fruit fly, I think it is actually called a cucumber fly that gets these. But a lot of people think that, oh, it's not pollinated or what have you, but they sting them when they're quite young. And what happens is the fruit doesn't fully form and it drops off, and this happens to our zucchinis and our butternut pumpkins a lot. But yeah, the only way to sort of stop it is to net it, but then you have to come out and hand pollinate, which is a little bit frustrating. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found these tips helpful in your quest to conquer the fruit fly situation. And if you've got any comments, please leave them down below, and anything that's worked for you, I would love to know it. And make sure, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. It helps us out immensely. So see you guys next time. Bye.